Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2021-22 season. My name is Dan and today we have got a Game Week 7 wildcard draft just for you guys. Now, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to play the wildcard yet. I don't think I am, but there is still a small possibility that I will, depending on press conferences and things like that, and finding out some injury news, all that kind of jazz. And in a way, because of the wildcard draft I made last week, I think it ended up getting something like 65 points, which is a little bit more than I got, which kind of made me think maybe I should have gone for that wild card in the end. I mean, it was a really good team, so hopefully I can make another really good team today, and maybe it will tempt myself and some of you guys to hit the wild card button. But even if not, hopefully there are some nice little tips in here and kind of help you identify those players that I would personally be targeting for the long term and the medium term as well. So guys, if you do enjoy this video, please do like it. It really helps out the channel. Of course, subscribe if you haven't done already. Join for more content. Plenty of FPL content to come as always. But before we do anything else, a quick word from our sponsor today.
When you're on a wildcard, you have to be smart with your money, but what about getting smart when shopping in real life too? That, guys, is where today's video sponsor Pouch comes in. So Pouch is a free desktop browser extension that automatically finds and applies the best discount codes that you might not know about when you're shopping online. So, for example, say I'm shopping online for some shoes. These Adidas trainers look pretty sick. Let's buy them, but before we do, Pouch is going to automatically pop up, let me know how many discount codes it's found, and apply the best one to save me that maximum amount of money. I just save £15 without having to do anything at all. So Pouch works with over 3,000 UK websites from ASOS and JD Sports all the way to groceries. That's more than any other similar browser extension in the entirety of the UK. If you had a browser extension that allowed you to get a random 30% off of a Mo Salah in FPL, for example, you'd absolutely do it. So why treat your real money any differently? It's an absolute no-brainer. I'm obsessed with Pouch, and there's literally no reason not to give it a go. It's an essential pick for your browser extension roster. It's completely free, only takes a couple of clicks to install. The first click being this link right here, which is also at the top of the video description if you want to check it out there. Doing so supports the channel, but more importantly, it supports your wallets. So what are you waiting for, guys? Get Pouch now.
Right, so here we have a blank pitch, a blank start, a fresh start for you guys with a wild card. I'm sure a lot of you guys are eyeing up that fresh start. I've got a team value today of 100.2. There are ways of getting this kind of team value a little bit lower if you need to do that. So I'm going to explain that as well. And also, if you've got a little bit more budget, you can top it up as well. But I like to try and keep the initial team value of any wild card teams I make around 100, so you guys can hopefully use it. It's most applicable to a lot of people, for those of you who don't have as much budget, which is absolutely fine. So let's start you off in goal with Ramsdale. So Ramsdale actually making a return for the second time in a row. Last week's wildcard template, that also had Ramsdale in. I thought it was a good shout then. Even then, I kind of thought maybe that first fixture wasn't amazing, but after that, looking really good for Arsenal in general. So they've got Brighton next, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, and then Leicester. Of course, none of these teams are particularly famed for scoring a lot of goals. Maybe you can say Aston Villa scored a few goals against Everton, but, I don't think any of these teams are going to score a huge amount of goals. So a team like Arsenal, who are improving on their defence a little bit, looking really good with Tomiyasu coming into the team, Gabriel coming back into the team as well after injury. Everything is looking like it's starting to fall into place a little bit for Arsenal. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have a little bit more confidence in Arsenal than perhaps we did have at the beginning of the season. So I do think Ramsdale is going to pick up clean sheets, make some good saves as well. He's a good goalkeeper. He's had a really good start to his Arsenal career, and he looks like he's nailed his spot in the Arsenal team as well. I wouldn't worry too much about Leno. Leno is potentially on his way out. There's been a few transfer rumours about Leno actually leaving the club, so it kind of seems like Leno is out now and Ramsdale is the guy for Arsenal between the sticks. But let's move on into defence. I'm going to start you off with Trent Alexander-Arnold, and you guys are probably going to be shouting at your screen saying, oh my god, what are you thinking, Dan? Trent Alexander-Arnold, he's injured, you can't have him in your team. Look, I've said this so many times before. Trent Alexander-Arnold, to me, is the best FPL asset in the entire game. Between him and Salah, these are two players that I don't want to be without ever. And Trent, if he's only out for, 1 week, potentially 2 weeks, I have devised a plan with this wild card where we can cover it just for a couple of weeks, and then we'll have Trent back in for some of those slightly easier fixtures. And, even if he misses the game against Man City, which we expect that he will, it's really not the end of the world, is it? If you're gonna miss one game, it's gonna be a game like Man City, right? If you had to miss one game, I'm sure we'll all agree on that one. Maybe you say Chelsea or maybe Manchester United, whatever your opinion is. This will be up there in a game you wouldn't mind your player missing. And then after that, we've got Watford, we've got Brighton coming up as well. We've got Manchester United, who I do think Liverpool could potentially get something against as well with their form and stuff. So overall, Trent, the most creative player in the Premier League, is playing for one of the best defences in the Premier League, and I think that he's just a great pick. And I wouldn't ever consider going without him, even on a wild card. I wouldn't bank a transfer. Some people kind of say, okay, I'll have this player in now, but with the intention of getting in Trent back in later or something like that. But as is always the case, injuries come up. Players hit form. We want to use our transfers on other players, and Trent ends up never coming back into your team, and you will suffer in the long term for that. So I would say get him in your team now and cover him for a couple of game weeks. That is what I would do personally, but obviously that's completely up to you. So we'll move on to Cancelo, another player who is returning from last week. I think so far we're exactly the same as the team I made from last week, which was kind of a good sign that last week's team was pretty good for the long term, right? But we've got Cancelo. After this Liverpool game, he has got an amazing run of fixtures: Burnley, Brighton and Crystal Palace. And Man City's fixtures do look much better kind of in the medium to long term than they did at the start of the season. So now is a really good time to hop on some Man City players. Ideally, you'd want to hop on those Man City players next week. But if you are on the wild card, again, we're talking about bringing in the players ready now for the long term, rather than saying, I'm going to bring this player in later, I'm going to bring that player in later. Never happens. It very, very, very rarely happens. So it's kind of better to just, try and be flexible, try and build a good base for the long term, and then you can be a bit more flexible with your transfers rather than banking in transfers to use in the future. It doesn't work, guys. It doesn't work. So yeah, we've got Cancelo in here. So we're pretty premium in defence so far. And like I say, Cancelo has got some amazing fixtures. So clean sheets are on the cards. Man City have been the best defence in the Premier League so far this season, based on stats, and that's despite their difficult run of fixtures. And Cancelo has been creative as well. And we always know how attacking he is. And he seems to have nailed himself on in that Man City team as well. So I really think he is. Him and Diaz are the two most nailed on defenders in that Man City team, and I think that's looking really good for a player who's kind of set and forget. Speaking of set and forget, we've got another player who is set and forget, and that is Rudiger. We could go for Alonso here. I think that there's still these minor concerns that Chilwell is going to come back into the team and displace Alonso, whether it's regularly, whether it's occasionally. I don't know exactly. Obviously, Chilwell played 45 minutes against Juventus. Is that a sign that he is getting ready to go to play a little bit more regularly? I'm not 100% sure. Look, I think Alonso is still a fantastic pick, but Alonso is a little bit more cheap. A little bit more expensive, sorry, and we are trying to save on team value a little bit in this draft. And like I say, guys, if you want to make little tweaks to this, then absolutely go for it. So we've got Rudiger as a slightly cheap option and a much safer option, which is a good thing to have. It's good to have a safer option, particularly when you've got, those slight worries about Cancelo. I know he will be rotated very occasionally, and we also got to cover Trent at the moment, so we can't really afford too many benchings with this team. Too much rotation amongst the players that we select. So Rudiger as the real safe pick is a really nice player to go for. He's getting a new contract soon. We've got this amazing run of fixtures for Chelsea as well that is going to last and last and last, and you're all going to absolutely love it. We all are really targeting Chelsea players right now, particularly their defence, because we know how good their defence is. And Rudiger just seems like such a simple, no headache player to bring into your team to pick you up clean sheets week after week after week. Amazing stuff. Let's move on into midfield. We've got Salah up next. Against Man City at first, but we know Salah's form right now. He's arguably in the form of his life. Even against Man City, he's at home as well. I still think he could get something in this game, if I'm completely honest. There's a very good chance of that happening. And after that, we've got Watford. After that, the fixtures are kind of mixed, but with a player like Salah, he's kind of fixture-proof. It doesn't really matter. You're going to be captaining him occasionally. You're probably going to be looking to captain him against Watford, I would imagine, guys. So he is a really good captain option for those slightly easier games when they do come up. The best possible captain option, and he's a set and forget player that you could just have for the rest of the season. As long as he's not injured, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about making transfers to replace Salah, and you can focus your transfers instead on some of the other players in your squad who come in and out of form, who have good and bad fixtures. You can kind of look at using your transfers that way. So that's a real key element to all of this, guys, is making a team that allows you to use your transfers effectively. And looking at the team so far, you would say Ramsdale, Trent, Cancelo, Rudiger, Salah. none of those are going to ever require a transfer unless they're injured. They just stay in your team forever, and you can focus your attention on those attacking players in your team and kind of rotate them using transfers based on form, based on fixtures, based on who you like the look of. And speaking of which, one of those players is going to be Rafinha. So for the short term, amazing fixtures, like really amazing fixtures for quite some time. We've kind of got Watford now, we've got Southampton, Wolves after that, we've got Norwich after that. So there's going to be some really nice opportunities for Rafinha to score some decent FPL points. And we've seen now for over a year that Rafinha is the real deal. He is the best player for Leeds. He is, the most creative in that squad by a long margin. He is matching Bamford in terms of his, shooting capabilities as well. Potentially even, more clinical than Bamford in many ways, and getting just as many opportunities to score. So for 6.5 million, you really can't go wrong given the fixtures. I think ignore that Dorito of death, ignore that warning sign that you can see on him, because it does look like he is going to be fit. We'll obviously get confirmation on that from Bielsa. Bielsa never shies from the truth when it comes to player fitness, so don't worry too much about that. We can make that change last minute if we need to. If you're on a wild card, you can make changes right up to the deadline as many as you want, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, Rafinha, absolutely love him. I'm a huge fan of his, and he's doing well for FPL points as well at the moment, isn't he? We'll move on to Saka, who is a little bit of a new addition. I know he got a big score against Spurs last week, but he did get an assist in the game before for Arsenal, so he is in a little bit of form. He has kind of shown himself now to be nailed in that Arsenal team. He's going to be playing every single game. I know a lot of people will perhaps prefer Emil Smith-Rowe. I do think there's going to be slight rotation with Emil Smith-Rowe with Pepe, where Saka is going to be playing near enough every single game, which is really nice. Arsenal, we know, have really good fixtures. Brighton is not an amazing fixture, but we've got Crystal Palace, Arsenal, Leicester. I think there's going to be opportunities in all of those games, and Saka is a player who is just improving and looking really good. So if you're going to go for an Arsenal attacker, I don't really know where you look aside from Saka, to be honest. There's not really any other players I'd be too keen on. Like I said, Emil Smith-Rowe is okay if he's just going to sit on your bench most weeks. But Saka is kind of the guy, really, isn't he, to go for in that Arsenal attack, particularly with these fixtures. We just need Arsenal to score a few more goals. If they keep up their performances like they did against Spurs in the first half, we're definitely going to see a few more goals from Arsenal, and that's going to involve Saka. And we're going to finish off the midfield with Gallagher here, who has had an absolute storming start. He's kind of, I'm not going to say he's come out of nowhere. We kind of knew he'd be starting and that he'd be a good player for Crystal Palace. But as an FPL asset, I think he has been a little bit of a surprise package, a little bit of an underdog story there. And I really like the look of him. And this has been in some difficult fixtures for Palace as well. So maybe coming into some slightly easier fixtures. And they're not all easy. They are mixed in the immediate term. And then they get a little bit easier after that. But at 5.7, there is opportunities to rotate Gallagher, and we're going to talk a little bit about rotation soon with this team, because this is not just me banging on the players I like the most into the team. This is me, creating a team that works for rotation, works for strategy, and all kinds of stuff like that. And so it's actually going to work for you rather than it just be a case of, okay, these are the best players to go for. There's far more to it than that when you're talking about making the real best out of your FPL team kind of thing. So Gallagher, he seems to sneak points, whether it's winning penalties, whether it's scoring banging goals, whether it's just falling to his feet, whether he's scoring, getting in some really nice positions. He's doing really well, and I think that is going to continue, and he's going to be one of the main outputs of attacking, contributions, goals, assists for Crystal Palace. So if you think Crystal Palace are reinvented under Vieira, and there are some signs that they are looking pretty good, they are a little bit reinvented. I don't know if they're going to be a top team, but they're certainly going to, be a little bit more competitive than they have in previous seasons where they were kind of relegation fodder. Gallagher's going to be a huge part of that, and we're really looking at the fixtures here against Leicester straight away, and then against Newcastle in a couple of game weeks' time. That's going to be nice as well to start with him, and you're going to really enjoy that, particularly with Newcastle's terrible defensive record so far this season. They're not looking great. So let's go up front. We're going to put Lukaku in, and that's not going to be any surprise to anyone. I think you can all see, guys, that Lukaku is going to have to go in any wildcard team whether you're making a wildcard in Game Week 7, maybe you're doing a wildcard in Game Week 8. Lukaku is going to be a player in there again, just because of Chelsea's amazing fixtures. And we've kind of got this insane run where it's Brentford, Norwich, Newcastle. I think it might be Burnley after that, but don't quote me on that one. But there is some really nice fixtures, all with amazing opportunities for attackers to thrive. Now, it's difficult with Chelsea attackers who to go for, because the midfielders are rotating a lot. Even the fullbacks are kind of expected to rotate a tiny bit, but they're also a good area to target. But in midfield, there's not really much to go for. So if we want an attacker for Chelsea, there is really only one option, and that is Lukaku at 11.7 million. So that is who I'd be going for. I'm sure I don't need to convince you guys too much on that one. It's probably one of the, if you're on a wild card right now, you've already hit the wild card button, for example. I imagine Lukaku is probably already in your team. So, yeah, keep him there is what I'm saying. We'll move on to Antonio. Now, I don't really like West Ham's fixtures that much, which is why I'm not going too heavy on West Ham here. I know you could probably easily see me going for someone like Benrahma or maybe a Sofao in defence. Not really too interested in any other players other than Antonio. And it is really Antonio just because of the form that he's showing. And he's essentially playing like a premium right now. He's recording similar stats to, premium FPL assets. And that's kind of going to continue to be the case. With Antonio, I always say this, he is an FPL cheat code because he is so cheap, and when he is fit, he performs the same amount of points, the same amount of goals, the same amount of underlying stats. Everything is on par with those premium players, which is why, guys, last week, a few people raised their eyebrows when I captained Antonio last week. The idea was, well, why would you captain Antonio? You've got Ronaldo, you've got Salah, you've got premiums. Well, if you think about Antonio as on level with a premium player when he's fit, then when Antonio has a better fixture than both Salah and Ronaldo, or both Salah and Lukaku, for example, then you can use him as a captain because he really is that good. He's got a great fixture against Brentford. We think he's going to get a good score against them. After that, like I say, the fixtures are kind of mixed. There's no easy fixtures, but if he can tick along with a goal a game or, a goal and assist every other game or something like that, which I believe he will do, then that's going to be some really nice consistent returns for a player who's 8 million, not too bad for a price. And then we're going to finally finish off the attack with Jimenez. I think this one is kind of optional. I've got a lot of confidence in Jimenez now that he scored his first goal because I like his underlying stats a lot. I like how many shots he was taking, particularly the shots that he's been taking in the box. I like the amount of big chances he's got over the last couple of games. He's got some big chances to score, and now he's finally netted a goal. It's going to give him that confidence to push on, move forward, score some more goals, or at least that's exactly what I'm hoping. Now we've got Newcastle next. Like I say, Newcastle sit bottom of the table in terms of who's the best defence, who's the worst defence. Newcastle out at the bottom of the table, kind of a Norwich in a similar place to them as well. So we're going to have hopefully a goal here from Jimenez, but you could easily see it being a couple of goals here as well. So yeah, could be a big score. And then after that, we've got Aston Villa away, not ideal fixture. We've got Leeds, who are struggling a little bit at the moment. We've got Everton at home. Everton kind of struggling a little bit at the moment, and there's some good fixtures on after that as well. So a quite nice run of fixtures for Jimenez, and hopefully he's going to get that form back that we know what he can do. He's done it before. For 7.5 million, 5% ownership, I think you could actually steal a march on a lot of people by going for someone like Jimenez. So guys, let's bring up the bench, and there's some strange names on there, but let's whiz on over the normal names first. So we've got Ben Foster, good, nice 4 million goalkeeper backup. If probably never going to need him, but if you do, maybe he starts ahead of Bachmann, the other Watford goalkeeper, but I think he's just the bog standard 4 million goalkeeper. We don't need to worry about that too much. I don't like rotating goalkeepers. I've said this enough times, so yeah, just stick with the 4 million goalkeeper on the bench. We've got Ben White. Now this is the player who is going to cover your Trent Alexander-Arnold, because we know that Ben White has a really nice fixture from a defensive point of view, a really nice fixture against Brighton and then Crystal Palace and Aston Villa after that. Hopefully we're not going to need him for that long, but even if we do need him, he provides excellent cover for a good amount of time over the next sort of 5, 6, 7 game weeks. White provides some really, really nice backup for you there, consistent good fixtures just in case you do need him. So I really like that a lot, and he's a really good 4.4 million, really, really cheap way to cover Trent Alexander-Arnold for at least this game week, and then maybe beyond that if needed. And if there's rotation, Cancelo doesn't play, Rudiger doesn't play, there's always freak rotations in FPL. That's how FPL works, that's how football works, that's how the Premier League works. You have got White there to cover you. And we've got El Yunusi here next, which I think is the most interesting name on this list, and he's probably not a player you've heard too much about, to be honest, but that's fine. So he's got Chelsea next, so we're not going to be looking to play El Yunusi, but he's a midfielder for Southampton. He's only 5.5 million, I believe, and he is looking really, really good. Like, genuinely really good. I've kind of been looking for those cheaper midfielders because I feel like if you're going with running these cheaper midfielders, you kind of probably want to rotate a little bit. And I'm kind of eyeing up Gallagher there as a player we probably want to rotate. Maybe we're benching Gallagher against Arsenal or against Man City or something like that, and you want to kind of another cheap midfielder that you can kind of rotate with him, and hopefully that works out really well. Now, El Yunusi, he's already got a goal to his name for Southampton, but he is shooting so much. He's getting some really good positions, and he's actually becoming one of the key, I guess, attacking outputs for Southampton. Now, Southampton haven't had good fixtures, but after Chelsea, they are going to have some very, very good fixtures. We've got, after Chelsea, I believe it is Leeds, Burnley, Watford, Aston Villa, and then Norwich, all in a row. All of those fixtures in a row. So that's going to provide some absolutely insane scores if, depending on if you hit the right Southampton attacker, that's going to provide some really good scores. So I'm kind of hoping that El Yunusi, because we're kind of looking at filling the midfield, really, aren't we? So we've got to look at midfielders. Who do we like from midfield? You could go for an Everton midfielder, Decore, Townsend, or Gray maybe, but Everton's fixtures look really, really bad consistently. We've kind of got Sarr as well, Ismail Sarr. I don't know. Yes, nice fixture next up against, who is it? They play next? Leeds. They play Leeds next. But after that, it's kind of like, no, really bad fixtures. In fact, Watford, I think, have the worst fixtures I've seen of any player, after Gameweek 7. It's looking really bad. So you could go for someone like one of those Everton players or Sarr or someone like that. But El Yunusi, if we're looking for a player with really, really strong fixtures, who's also looking really good on underlying stats, who's already scored a goal so far this season, I like him. I like him a lot, and I think he could be that differential, that difference maker. So, guys, you heard it here first, or maybe you didn't hear it first. Maybe someone else has mentioned him, but yeah, I like the look of him a lot, and I think he could be that nice differential to have on your bench and rotate in and out depending on fixtures, particularly with Gallagher, or, as a backup if you don't like Saka, if you don't like Rafinha, if one of them gets injured, or if one of your attackers gets injured in general, you have that backup, you have the backup brigade. And of course, we've got Livramento as well, who has the identical fixtures after Chelsea, so Leeds, Burnley, Watford, Aston Villa, Norwich. So Livramento, again, a player that can potentially cover you if needed, if you quite like the look of him. So, basically, this is a team that I really, really like. I'm not planning on wildcarding at all this week, or hoping not to anyway. But I look at this team and I think, maybe this is quite tempting. This could be a real nice boost to my rank. And that's kind of what we're looking for. And, it's well thought out. There's good rotation options there. You've got a lot of cover on there without having to spend too much money. If you've got a little bit more budget, you can save money in your bank and have a good team at the same time for potential future upgrades. If you want to upgrade one of your midfielders to, a Man City midfielder or something like that, there is possibility to do that if you've got a bit of money in the bank, or if you want to downgrade maybe a Jimenez to a San Maximan or a Tony maybe, something like that. It's all very, very possible. There's lots of freedom in this team, I think. I can just see lots of pathways that you can go down. Just for fun, let's do captains. This week we'd probably say Lukaku is the best captain option, and maybe followed by Antonio. So Antonio for vice captain, I suppose. Although there are other options there, you could go for maybe Rafinha or Jimenez. They could be interesting options as well. And that's what your team would look like for Game Week 7. You just swap Trent Alexander-Arnold out for White. You'd probably start with Trent anyway. Just in case he does play by some random event. But that's what I like. That's what I would do. This is what I would do if I were to wildcard in Game Week 7, and I will, of course, confirm what I'm up to in tomorrow's team selection video. Thank you for watching this video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Hopefully it was kind of useful to you. If it was, of course, do leave a like on the video before you leave, and subscribe if you haven't done already, as we march towards 100,000 subscribers, one step at a time. Like I say, guys, I'm going to be doing my team selection video tomorrow on Friday, we'll kind of try and get as close as possible to the moves that I will be making on Friday. So maybe it'll be a wild card. Let's see. Let's wait for some press conferences and get a little bit more information. But there you go, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out this video's sponsor, Pouch, in the description. And I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.